trying to get up to go out to get some food, some cereal, eggs, whatever. And my head is spinning with everything my mother, father, Social Security, doctors, Department of Health and Human Services, other doctor, cash benefits people, food stamp people, insurance people, my father's fucking bullshit. What I mean by that is I mean all this old medical paperwork that I have to clear up before I can actually get help with my actual illness. I mean, you can't spend 15 years crying wolf like my mother did, then expect your son to go to the doctors and say, this wolf is making me sick, and the doctors are going to help him. No, not when the mother has made 101 wolves already. When a mother spends 15 more years making over 100 wolves, then goes out of control and passes away, leaving her business unhandled, and then before the mother is even in the ground, the father's already moved on and running into the sunset. So none of those prior problems are getting handled. Excuse me, I get hiccups all the time. That comes from what was happening to me at childhood. It's still, I've always had esophagus and stomach problems ever since the years of age 5 on. It started with me being held down and given a double dose of Ritalin or medication in the orphanage. But that did very little damage, just made me a little afraid and sick to my stomach. But after my mother gave me an overdose and then forced me to drink a full bottle of Epicac and then continued to play around with pills, my stomach got more and more destroyed as my esophagus got more and more destroyed. I was the only kid that had the Halloween curse, where every Halloween my mother would call me over to take my medication, and then I would get violently ill. I was the only, I don't know many other children that are sat down at a picnic table in New Mexico, given rotten eggs and milk that has cheese chunks in the middle because it's so rotten. The eggs are rotten. Everybody knows the fridge has been broken for a couple days now. You can smell the rottenness. But the staff member is on the weekend shift and does not want to call it in. So you either have a choice: eat the poisonous food or get choked out. Now, this happened many times before. And when I chose not to eat the poisonous food, I got choked out because I was choosing not to eat in general. I was getting abused by food and and by people, so I was afraid to eat during my childhood. So that was a problem. So these staff members had permission to hold me if I wasn't eating. But one staff member turned holding into cut off the wind supply, throw the kids around, and leave bruises on them. So, this day the food was extra poisonous. Me and everybody else who actually ate it got incredibly sick. Me for 7 days. Another kid, 3 days. I don't know, one kid was in bed after me. We all got violently ill, the five of us. The rest of the kids refused to eat the poisonous food. Now, that I'm not talking about like a kid being afraid to eat his vegetables. I'm talking about clearly, obviously rotten food. I mean, pouring your milk and there are clear chunks the size of your thumbnail. Lots of chunks, and it is sour as it comes. Yes, for 7 days I was shitting in my bed, pissing myself because I couldn't get to the bathroom, and filling up a trash can with vomit. For 7 days. Until I got up out of bed. 7 fucking days. And I doubt the staff members told my parents the full extent of the situation. You think they wanted the parents to know that Toby on a weekend forced the children to eat poisonous food? Of course not. And the one kid that was speaking up was getting abused even more. The problem with bad parents is they don't stop being bad just because they hear something bad. If I was to tell my father that there's an African American forcing me to eat poisonous food and choking me, my father would call the director, and the director would say, "Oh, it's all nonsense," and then my father would give up. Then the director would talk to Toby in private. Then Toby's gonna come and choke me and beat the living shit out of me for being a little white snitch, because that's the policy. If you're a 35-year-old, 300-pound football playing African American, and a little white kid decides to snitch you out for something you did, you don't say, "Sorry, little boy, I'll be better to you." No, you get extra chokings. You get beat. You get thrown around. You're the target of his aggression now. And I saw this with that other kid that was just like me. It took him 3 complaints and over 9 months of complaining before this one staff member was no longer allowed to hurt this child. They didn't even take him out of the program. They just said, "No more hurting children. You're not allowed to hurt children." And then on the third one, "You're not allowed to even talk to this child." How about taking the child out of the abusive situation completely? How about you do that as a good parent? Oh, but then the parents can't vacation every single week. Then they would actually have to spend some time with their kid. No, no, no. These parents want to spend 1 hour a month with their children as these big, giant, horrible people do stuff, and their children and their child loses out on education. I feel most bad for the girls there. Yes, it was co-ed. One girl, not my little girlfriend, but was choked out naked. Another girl who got choked out a lot of the time with me, she missed out on just as much education as me. Me and her just played it in the woods. Our education was, don't put your hand in the hole. You could hear me with the hiccups having breathing problems. I got that because I've been choking on phlegm, and when I try to take a sip of water, I stop breathing for a second. When I gasped for air, it came. These are all been happening since childhood. The real problem here is my mother and father never ever would let me get any health care. It always about my mother. My mother always like, "Oh, he has bipolar. Oh, he's schizophrenic. Oh, he fell and bumping in the furniture. He's suicidal. Oh, he fell into a pool and cut the back of his foot. He's suicidal. Oh, he's sucking on his skin. He's suicidal. Oh, he's passed out blind on the floor. Let him sleep it off." That is why. And then when I'm at the doctor's asking for help, my mother's like, "Don't pay attention. It's an allergy attack. Move on, move on." And that is why today I have so many injuries. And I'm not looking forward to all the new ones that are coming around the corner, because my father still has allowed these lies to continue. So there is 100 more injuries around the corner waiting for me, and I'm literally losing everything I own. About $20,000 worth of shit will be in the dumpster, all because I don't drive. I'm out of work injured. I can't lift, and I am not going to go back to work because I cannot, because the doctors are not working with me. If my father was just an honest individual and he was willing to work with his son and clean up his second wife's mistakes and make sure his son doesn't die from somebody else's choices, if he was willing to do that, then all we have to do is walk it into these places and tell them what's happened. But as far as it's been so far, I tell the truth about what happened to me, and then my father tells everybody it's a fantasy, don't help me. And then everything goes in a loop. I spend 6 years trying to get help. I finally am getting the help. I'm on epilepsy medication, stuff like that. And then my father pulls it all out. Like, watch, I'm on epilepsy medication that's given me an 80% improvement. It's so big of a help. It's called Triliptol, and it's used for epilepsy, and it's great. But we can do a lot better than even that. But I won't be able to continue that soon. Why? Because everything is going to be pulled out under me. I'm going to be pushed off the grid because my father doesn't want to handle this. So it's only me telling the truth. I'm going to the doctor by myself. There's only me. But there's nobody else other than strangers who's witnessing these things. I'm walking down the street, and then all of a sudden I have a seizure and an injury in the witnesses report. That's all we got to go on, because my family could give a shit less what symptoms, what side effects I'm experiencing. I mean, at the age of 7, I was literally drugged with very, very drowsy medication during my own adoption. I was about to sleep on the floor during my adoption party, and nobody seemed to ask about side effects. When I complained about side effects like hangovers, extreme headaches, nausea, vomiting, suicidal thoughts, anything like that, you know what my mother used to tell me? Don't blame the medicine. If you read the medicine list, or the side effect list, you'll think you have it. That's all it is, Zach. And I would say, I haven't read the side effect list. You told me not to, so I didn't. Oh, yes, my mother went around telling me and my father, don't read the side effect list. Don't read the side effect list, is what my mother told my father and me. Don't read the side effect list. What she was really doing is trying to brainwash us. So when we do read the side effect list and we realize I'm having a lot of those really life-threatening side effects, then we would want to get me help, right? But my mother prepared it just in case that happened. Now, it never happened because my mother did told me and my father not to read it, and we didn't. But when I became an adult, aged 20, I did read through it. And I realized all those symptoms during childhood are very clearly there. And oh boy, vomiting is a very clear, visible symptom. I mean, oh my God. Things that I've been through, other people don't go through. Only people that have mothers like mine. And my father's still trying to run from it. And then I have to die. As long as my father is running, I have to be digging my grave. And I can't work. As soon as my father handled this with me, then I can work a job, live my life, and live a life of a human life. But as long as my father continues on this road, I'm still disqualified from doing everything human, and I have to live in the woods like an animal. The only reason why I was allowed to work this time around is because I didn't tell anybody about my disabilities. But after a year, they find out, and then I'm not allowed to go back. And then I go to a different job, and after a year, they find out that I'm disabled, and I'm not allowed to go back. Well, why don't I just go to the doctors? I do. I've gone to the doctors for 25 years. The problem is that my mother spent the first 15 years lying to doctors. So now that I'm telling the truth, it doesn't matter. I went along with my mother's fantasies. I was brainwashed and I repeated stuff that wasn't true. I repeated that I'm bipolar at times. And then I said I'm not bipolar. And I said I am bipolar. I said my mother said I'm bipolar. And then this person said I'm not bipolar. That makes no sense to a doctor flipping back and forth like that for 15 years with your mother. Plus, there's like 6 states, 5 states involved. We got New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts, New Mexico, and Texas, all involved with medical records. When you do something like that, a person who doesn't drive, is disabled, can't really walk during winter, falls and becomes a bloody mess, and he never ever was even allowed to have a start at age 7. So he was just made crippled before he was even able to drive. When you do that to somebody, it's not like, well, just go drive to the doctor. Oh no, I was crippled before I could drive. Oh, they got to you before you even had a chance, I see. So these motherfuckers crippled you before you even had a chance to get help. Pretty much. Well, why don't they help you now? Oh, because they don't want to take responsibility for their actions. They want to call me a shithead. They want to say, oh, we're not helping him because he's a liar. We're not helping him because he's a thief. We're not helping him because he called us a name. We're not helping him because he threatened me. Meanwhile, they threaten me and complete the threat. They harm me and do permanent damage to my body. They steal from me and act like it's nothing. They steal my swimming medal, my first ever medal or trophy I ever won in my entire life. I won at the YMCA. You know what happened to that trophy? My mother stole it from me. I told her that that was mine, and she decided she was going to play one of her fucked up games. Just because you want to play a fucked up game and steal stuff does not make it okay to pick on your little son. Just because you want to make up stories about your son being a thief doesn't make him a thief. Kids learn lessons. Kids will be kids. I was a normal kid once. But after meeting this mother, I was a disabled kid, and then a crippled kid, and then an anxious kid, and then a scared kid, and then a stupid kid, and then a kid with no teacher, a kid with no home, a kid with no parents or anybody around, and a kid with no health, a kid with no health care. This is what I became after meeting my mother. Now, I don't have any hurt feelings. I mean, I got a good better start than people in the 1800s, the orphans. And my real problem is, why are we doing this system in America? Why do we not have oversight? If we're going to take children from people, then we need to have oversight. We cannot be crippling children and saying, okay, your mother's a drunk, so we're going to cripple you and put you in a wheelchair and make sure you die at the age of 35. That's not a better life. So, why are we doing this really? If these children are living in the shelter in their 20s and they never recover, if they end up brain dead and stupid on medication, if they end up crippled and in wheelchairs, that's not a better life. And I've seen these children in the orphanages. They start out just hyper and normal. By the time they're 10 or 12, the pharmaceutical companies are drugging the shit out of them, and they're playing with their minds. By the time of 18, these kids are acting out and the drugs are becoming a problem. By the time of 20, they switch over the street drugs with their pharmaceutical drugs that the doctors have them hooked on. Then by the age of 30, they're all fucked up and they have no clue, head from tails. Now, luckily, I'm smarter than that, and I was able to keep track of what's going on. Something that most people don't do. Like, I remember the conversations I've had about this neurological disorder because I've always wanted to know about it. Oh, I gotta hold my breath. I can't take any more of this breathing issues. But the neurological disorder goes back 25 years. The seizures, the lack of movement. I mean, goddamn, I didn't drive. I've always been worried about driving. That's nothing new. How many 16-year-olds do you know that are still not driving at age 31 and have never, ever said otherwise? I mean, I've always brought up this neurological disorder. This isn't like something new for my family. It's something that I brought up with my father and mother since age 7 at the doctor's office. It's just that my mother wanted to lie and move me around. Well, that's not my choice. I did not make my choice for my father and mother to move me around, lie to doctors, manipulate Social Security, or do any of those things. But yet, I'm the one paying for it. I'm the one that can't go to work due to my disability not being established. I'm the one that was thrown out of a shelter and discriminated against because my father and mother wanted to keep secrets from the doctors. I'm the one who can't drive and has to pay $400 a month in transportation cost, meanwhile getting ran over on the side of the road. I'm the one that continuously loses everything he owns only because he's not allowed to go back to work. I mean, for the last 3 years, I've had a seizure or an injury almost every year and had to change jobs, only because my father will not let me get medical care. He will not. That for me to get medical care, we have to go and tell them the truth and make sure my mother's bullshit is not repeated. The problem is, all the way to age 19, 20, I believed in my mother and father. See, my biggest mistake is I loved my father and mother. I believed in them, and I loved them. I gave my mother and father unconditional love, and I believed that they really had my best interest in mind. That was a big mistake. Letting your mother lie about you, make up stories about you, having a mother that hits you in the face with a ruler, and then your father's in the other room pretending like it's not going on. Having a mother that thinks it's okay to poison you, play doctors with pills you're not prescribed, all that type of stuff. That's not okay. That's fucking not okay.